we had the factory was moving, and we had a guy we called him Big Darren. Big Darren was 6'4" tall, built like, as I've said, brick toilet. I said, he was a person, I used to say, Darren, we've got a deal for you. Great, what have you got? And he made dog collars and all sorts of funny stuff. But we got all the old fittings and what have you that nobody would buy because they were oddments of this and oddments of that. But somebody like him who was doing all these odd things, he could mix and match. We came into the factory, he came into the factory and we had steps, and it used to be 13 steps up to the first floor and then 13 stairs up to the top floor. And he got up to the top floor. See, well, as he was walking up, I just walked up at my usual pace. He had not cleared the first 13 steps. Because I couldn't see him because it was all partitioned off. And I got there and I looked down and he was going 1 step, 2 step, and looking left shoulder, right shoulder. And he just kept on doing left shoulder. What the bloody hell is he up to? And he got all the way to the top, and all of a sudden it was boom, he hit the floor big time. And his language was beautiful, very black country. And he said, Cliff, I'm going. I like you. You're a good friend. You're a good customer. You're a good, you're good to me. But I'm sorry, I'm going. I'm never coming back here again. Seriously, I'm not coming back. I said, what's happened? He said, as he was walking up the stairs, he said he heard the footsteps. He heard footsteps behind him. And as he got near the top, he felt a hand in his back. And he said it pushed him down. And he was 6'4". And he must have been 19, 20 stone. He used to be a professional weightlifter. And he was like a jelly when he left. 3 weeks later, I had a paranormal group in. And they said, I was telling them a story. And they said, well, look, we want to do it. I said, okay. It was a Saturday around lunchtime. I said, okay, feel free. On you come. We went up the stairs, and the organizer, the person who was a paranormal, the sort of big boss, head honcho, he was walking with me, but he had his son with him, and his son we went up to the first 13, we got up to the top, and his son was nowhere to be seen. Left shoulder, right shoulder. And he was doing exactly the same. I said, get a move, pardon my French, get a move on now, you lazy bugger. Run! And he just sort of, shot. And he ran all the way upstairs. All the way. Now, one little piece I've missed off. Sorry, it's my mistake. When we had the Yellow Pasco, I'd actually just been told about that we got been told that we got 2 ghosts. So I came in and there was James Lawrenson. That's the picture I've shown you around. James Lawrenson was there. And he's the actor. And he was in a program called Napoleon.
It's called Boney.
Boney, that's it. That's it, Boney. Yes, Boney. And it was actually him, and he's from New Zealand, if I'm correct. But they never showed it again because he was white and he was playing the part of an Aborigine. But he was there, and he said, great factory. I said, you're not going to believe what I've just heard, what I've been told. And I was telling him about, he said, my God, I wonder what, I don't believe it, but it's got to be true. But he said he was actually there they were there they went into the old hardball department where we'd had that incident a little later, a few months later. And he was in the old hardball department. And every time they tried to film, flicker. The camera wouldn't work. It's trouble with the lights. And they came in, and he said, one of the producers came in to see me. He said, Cliff, what's the matter with your lighting? He said, can you give me 5 minutes? Please give me 5 minutes and I'll sort it out. And he said, so I went. And I just stood at the bottom of the stairs. He said, hello, I'm sorry, but I don't know who you are, but I'm Cliff. I'm the grandson of Sir Cliff. I'm the great-grandson of Jabez Cliff, his grandfather. I said, please would you be kind and let these people film. It is vital for the company that they do it. But please feel free to do anything at any other time. But on this occasion, please allow it. And I came back and said, I've spoken to them. And James Lawrence, they did the filming. And he came back and said, my God, he said, they've all been talking about you. He said, they don't know what you did, but it was a marvel. He couldn't believe it. But we'd actually had an electrician going through our whole electrical, because insurance companies are a pain in the butt. And we had them going through because they wanted us to do this and do that. And they actually looked at it and they said, no, it's okay. We had no trouble with our electrics. This was the ghost. Now, we were, as I said, we were closing down, and I'm sort of the company historian. And I had to go into a room and sort everything out. Because we had old files, old catalogues, you name it, we had it. And I thought, I've got to get this done, but I can't do it on my own. I've got to get somebody to do something. So I went into the bridal shop and I said, right. I said, I need some people to help me on Friday morning. I'll buy you a sandwich. Every hand went up. Whereabouts have we got to work, Cliff? In Mr. Tom's office. Now we had massive fire door, great big thing, like the really old-fashioned heavy ones. We had that, and you had to open this to get into the other wing. And so, but on that side, on the other side, on the old north wing, that is the one that was live, to put it like that. It was almost like touching a firework. And it sort of went in there. She said, whereabouts are we working, Cliff? I said, you're working in Mr. Tom's office. And they said, we want more than a lot of the women said, no, we're not going. I think I got three volunteers I got. I said, we'll come and help you, Cliff, at best, and how about a little sweetener? I had to get the job done. So they said, we started, and we had, do you know Dexian racking, heavy duty? It's, shelving, basically. And we had massive boxes, all in these, full of all the paperwork, and it got everything on it. And these were all the old records, catalogues, you name it. All the interesting stuff that had been gleaned over the years and put in piles like that. And we just had to glean. So we had a pile. I had some big boxes which we actually put certain files in, and then there were others which were just I had to look at. Or they had to look at, and that something that needed extra work on. So those were in the middle file, and anything that was rubbish, we just put in the third pile. So I started on one side. And I started on the top because they were only small. So they were doing the bottom three shelves and I was doing the top two. We stopped at 10 o'clock. We were doing well. Stopped at 10 o'clock to have a tea break and for them to eat the sandwich. No sooner had we had the sandwich, they started work again. And it was about 15 minutes later. What the? A box file and actually fallen off the shelf, and there's no way that it can fall off, especially when it's flat like that. Fell down and hit her on the shoulder. I'm not staying here. I'm not going there. And all three of them walked out. I didn't have to pay them £10, but I did have to buy them. I did have to pay for the sandwich. But in that office, in that room, I just want to read out something that was here, written by somebody. Now, they'd never been into the factory. This person had never been into the factory before. Very bold figure. False hand. Now, how would she know false hand? That was actually my uncle. Seriously, that was my uncle who had lost an arm at 5 in a combine harvester. And he played hockey for Staffordshire with one arm. But he said this wooden arm, which he just used to, if he was writing, he'd always put his arm on here like that and then write. He would actually, he would stop the players just by sticking his arm out. And of course, it's a wooden arm. Quite painful. But that was, so I thought, crikey, we've got to test this. So I actually put I'd done all the paperwork and moved all the files out. And so the room was empty. And I took the desk, I got hold of them. We got two big desks, twice, 2 or 3 times that size. And I put some tests. We got, being in the saddlery trade and leather goods industry, you have certain patterns, different shape, all various patterns. And I just got hold of them and I put it on paper. And I traced around objects in paper, and I actually got it all lined. I got them all lined up so you could actually see the shapes, see the paper. And I'd done it all I'd cut a leather piece first so I could mark around it. And then I made sure that the template was actually fitting exactly to it. But what happened was, I kept it for 3 months. I said to the lady who was, in with me at the time, with the person I used to take home, said, "You're holding the key. The other spare one is with the works manager. He's got it. But nobody is to enter this room." For 3 months, nobody went in. 3 months, 3 of us went in. 4 of the items had actually been moved. There was no wind, no nothing. Nothing at all. We had, the factory had moved. Well, they had moved. And I was in there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'd been told the day before, I got a phone call, "Excuse me, Cliff, you're the only one that knows about the sewing machines. We've got a gentleman called Hartley who's West Indian, loves sewing machines. And his bread and butter. He said he wants to buy some sewing machines. He said, can you sort out?" And he gave me the model number, 45Ks. He said, he wants those. I said, okay, I'll find them out. And they're all ticketed. Great. So I had to move them downstairs. Now do any of you know what the old Victorian lifts are like? With the massive metal wheel at the top. And then you've got the rope and you pull it down. You know what it's like. So in other words, you pull it. So when you've got any weight on it, it just goes, and it goes down to the bottom, without even touching it. So I went downstairs. I actually arranged. I got a forklift. I got a sack truck upstairs. I got a sack truck downstairs, so I could actually go there. And this was in the morning, between 6 o'clock. And I actually came down, and I would actually take 2 machines at a time, put them on the lift, undo the lift, send it to the bottom. We came to number 7 and 8. 7 and 8 went down to the bottom. And I started pulling up. And all of a sudden, the rope, it was going down. I hadn't pulled. It was going down, and I got my hands like this. And the lift went all the way up to the top floor where I was. I wasn't touching it. I wasn't touching it. I don't know who was. It must have been one of those 2 men. But I do not know to this day how it actually got to the top floor. I gave a talk at the I think it's called the Ghost Society in London, which, if any of you like horror stories, Dennis Wheatley, and also a rather famous actor, 2 famous actors, Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, were presidents. They were former presidents. But when I gave this talk, and I was actually invited down to London to go and give it, they just couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. But the problem was that was it 11th of August, 2010, I was actually bowling and I could see smoke. And we had an employee who was 18, 19 stone, built again like a brick toilet. He was a professional, semi-professional cage fighter. So he knows how to look after himself. But the factory was sort of full of the unwanted. I had been on Michael Portillo's Great British Train Journeys. And as soon as I appeared on that program, they saw the program, they realized the factory was empty. They were in like a God knows what. The damage they did was unbelievable. They put a 10-foot hole in the ceiling, 10-foot hole in the ceiling on the first floor. And they attached a rope to a beam. And they were actually using it to swing on. They were throwing pieces of machinery, old machinery. They were just, it was just sheer bloody mindedness. They got nothing better to do. But they even threatened him. That's how bad it was. The police were in there no end of times. But sadly, on that day, you won't see James Cliff anymore. It was actually set fire. They actually got somebody that was in there, and it was a Monday. He decided to light a cigarette. And we have a no smoking policy, no matches, no nothing. And we got wooden floors. He'd been reading a paper caught light, wooden floor caught light, and the factory went up, bang. 85 firemen were there trying to put it out. So what had been a company for many people, they'd lived there, they'd been working there in that building from 1890, as Jabez Cliff, was destroyed. But the person who sums up the factory far better probably than anybody was actually one of the shop engineers. And I had to ring him up one day. And he said, your factory. He said, when I get a phone call telling me that the burglar alarm has gone off at Jabez Cliff, he said, I'm petrified. He said, when I walk into your factory, he said, I'm more petrified going into your factory than I was when I was in Afghanistan or Basra or Fallujah. He said, I was a sergeant major in the army. He said, I've seen fighting. He said, but this, he said, it just puts a chill down your neck. He said, I'd rather be there than be in Jabez Cliff. When I'm there, you know something's going to happen. You don't have a strong possibility where they are. He said, but in your factory, he said, it just scares me. It scares me to pieces. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Why are they there? Why are they not passed on?
That I don't know. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I did one question I did raise at the Go Society, which is the building in question where the factory was. What they were going to do, they were going to put in a doctor's surgery. So I just happened to say to them, somebody said to me, they were going to come down from London. These are the expert, these ghost hunters from the Ghost Club. They were going to come to the factory and have a look and see what they could find. But they said, no, I said, but they wouldn't let them on because of, and if they got injured. But they say that ghosts stay where they are. I don't know why they've moved on, probably because they were happy where they were. But he said, they will not move from that place. There's over 20 people there. They will not move from that place.
So what you're saying is that they actually died in your factory?
We've had 3 people have died. 3 people have died. 4, probably 4. I know of 3, but then you've got the man that died earlier on, who hung himself. So that's 4.
Yes, that's 4.
That's 4. But 3 died when I was there.
So would the others be there because that's the place they
loved it?
They loved most.
I mean, I've got things here. I've got one person who's seen all over the factory. We have a case of a young man who turns up in that shop on the ground floor as you walk in on the left-hand side where we had all the presses. He used to turn up and he just used to stand there, and the women used to say to him, "I'm sorry, but you can't come in here. You've got to go to reception." And he'd just disappear like that. I can't explain it, but no, they're happy. They're happy. They were happy there. He said it's a happy place, but we have got one or two, I think, on the stairs. I think they were trying to protect me, but they loved it. He said it's a happy place. But I can't. I'm not psychic. I'm not paranormal expert. All I am is just a businessman whose factory was haunted and thought, right, I'm an inquisitive bugger. Let's go and investigate.
So what's happened to it now? Is it a doctor's surgery?
No, it's vacant. It was put up for sale. The doctor's surgery were going to buy it, but then somebody thought, right, if the doctor's surgery are going to buy it, we'll buy it and we'll sell it to the doctor's surgery, so they can make a few. They can make a few pennies. But sadly, the building they didn't like. The building was not in the right place because it's on a hill. I don't know if you know Walsall, but we were on a hill. So that if anybody had to get to the factory, especially from Walsall itself, they would have to climb up the hill to get there. Now they're just moving. They're moving opposite the town hall. That is where they've got the building.
So is it just sitting there as an empty plot of land?
Empty plot of land. And then they burnt down BB&B, which is another company we had. That got burnt down by the. I've got nothing better to do. Let's have a fire.
So how long has it been closed down?
It's closed down from, well, we moved. I actually retired in 2007, but they moved near the Dilk pub. They had a place there, but now that building that they closed down. We sold the business. I just thought, I've done my bit. Let the others look after it. But the equestrian trade is going through absolute.
So the ones that wanted the doctor's surgery, when did that close or use?
Oh, we had the fire. No, the doctor's surgery. The doctor's surgery is just around the corner in Litchfield Street, and they wanted to come up. They had a look at this. They had a look at my factory, and they thought beautiful. But then they had the problem with the hill. But then the council went and offered them the old Ackers and Jarrett's. I think it was Ackers and Jarrett's in Walsall on Hatherton Street. Any more questions?
Are you able to put names to the four in question?
To
the four that you know about? Have you put names to? Have you found them in the census?
I've got names here. No, I can't. I've got, mind you, I've got first names. I've got first names here, but some of them I know. I actually knew the one person. I'm going to be careful here. I actually knew his grandson and his grandson and his son. I knew both of those. I didn't know the father. He was the one that died in the 30s, but I knew the other two. I knew them. I've known there's quite a few I reckon. I knew. I'll probably say 6 or 7, probably more than that. I've got, what do they say? I'm just looking through here. Courtyard, through main door, man with missing fingers. I've got the name of one person who I do know. And I've got a surname. But I can't say, I'm not, it's something I cannot, I would not do. I know I've got the name here. But I've got to be so careful. I don't want to get into, because I can get into serious trouble if, it might affect a family. So I just.
And are the family aware of that?
Sorry?
The two sons that you know, are they aware?
No, I haven't told them. It's not my, it's not for me to say, I can't, it is, I just keep it very private. I'll be very guarded in what I say. Carol was not that person's name. But I have to be so careful. But this is the way I have to do it.
So did Carol die at the factory?
No. She didn't die at the factory. She died elsewhere.
Have they been seen since the factory closed?
I would not know about that because it's all fenced off now. It's all fenced off. The paranormal experts, the people from London want to come down and have a look. But
I bet they're having a whale of time.
they are. Well, I've said, mainly what I've said is, they said the ghosts will stay where they are, and when the building's put up, they'll move in. They're going to have fun. I don't know.